Hey guys, welcome back to the home and homestead. Today we'll be doing some food preservation and canning. We'll be doing water bath canning today. We will be doing part 3 of a 4-part spring canning series where we're trying out some new recipes and doing some fun and different flavor pairings with some of the common spring harvest produce that you may find from your garden, the grocery store, farmer's market, what have you. Today we'll be doing a raspberry sweet heat jam. We will be combining raspberries and sweet heat peppers. So if you watched our vegetable garden update video, you'll see some of these plants that we have, and one of them is the sweet heat pepper, and I was able to harvest some of these this morning to use in this recipe today. And then also we have raspberries on the property. These are some of last year's raspberries that I froze, and I'll be using them today for the jam. So follow along and we'll do this water bath canning project today using some items that we were able to harvest this spring. So when I do my canning projects, I like to get all my supplies ready. So I have my jars laid out, the different sizes I might be using. Today we'll be using these half-pint jars. They're more of a rounded shape. We like to use these for jams and jellies. And I have them in a stock pot with some warm water. They're on a little silver jar riser tray. I just have this water slightly warm so that these jars can warm up and be to a nice heated temperature so that when the hot jam is added to them, it prevents the potential of breaking. I also have a nice large Dutch oven that I'll be cooking produce with today to make the jam. And we have a glass top stovetop there. I like to use my water bath canner on a separate electrical burner here. I can provide which one I like in the description box below. I just feel more secure, and this is a lot of weight to be putting on a glass stovetop, and I feel more comfortable using this, and this also frees up all the burners for use for other things. I also have my laser thermometer for checking the water temperature to make sure that the water bath is going at the temperature that I want when we later process the jars. And I like to lay out all of the ingredients that I'll be using today. So canning salt, sugar. The acid we'll be using today is lemon juice. I also have some pectin, my measuring spoons and cups. This is a canning ladle, so it has a nice curve to it that gets into the corners of the Dutch oven, and it has a nice spout shape for pouring into the jars. There's a jar funnel and my little hot pad for gripping onto the jars while I'm filling them. So let's get the ingredients into the Dutch oven on the stovetop here and get this jam started. Okay, so this recipe is actually an adaptation of one that I found. The original recipe was a raspberry jalapeno jam, but I have some other jalapeno recipes that I canned earlier. Check them out as part of this 4-part canning series today. So I thought I'd use the sweet heat peppers instead, and otherwise the recipe would be the same. If you're going to alter a recipe, just make sure the sugar and the acid, things that might affect the pH, things like that, those you should stick to the recipe. Other things you can kind of play around with a little bit if you have spices and things like that. So this recipe calls for 6 cups of raspberries. And again, these are from our property. I froze them last year. I thought this would be good use for them, and then it frees up room for this year's harvest, which our raspberry bushes are ready to be harvested. Again, we've been kind of eating them as we walk around the yard. Just eat them handful at a time, but I think it's time to harvest some and get some in the freezer again. And then we'll be adding, the recipe called for 1 to 2 jalapeno peppers. I'm doing the sweet heat, and we like things with a little more spice, so I'm doing 4 smaller sweet heat peppers. If you don't care for a spicy recipe, or if you don't want to try a spicy jam, you can certainly make a raspberry jam, which is very delicious. I have a number of jars down in the pantry already, so I thought I'd try something new, and this just kind of piqued my interest this year. We'll also be adding some lemon juice, and that'll be the acid for this food preservation project. We'll be doing a 1/4 cup of bottled lemon juice. I'm using the Santa Cruz Organic Pure Lemon Juice. We'll measure out a 1/4 cup, and I'll add that to the mixture. Now we'll bring this up to a boil. It should take 5 to 10 minutes. And at that point, we'll add the pectin and then the sugar. So first we'll bring this up to a boil and I'll measure out some of the pectin. So I'll be using the classic pectin today. I'm using the required amount of sugar for the recipe. They also have a low or no sugar pectin if you are trying to watch your sugar content in jams, jellies, and things like that, preserves. So I'll be using this today. And it says right on the back here, 6 tablespoons of this pectin equals 1 box of pectin. So if you find a recipe that talks about use 1 box of pectin and you have this Ball brand classic pectin or bulk pectin, that's typically what the breakdown will be. So I'll do 6 tablespoons of this, which equals 1 box of pectin when the time comes. All right, let's get these cooking. Okay, so the raspberry and sweet heat peppers are up to a boil. So I'm going to start measuring out the pectin. Pectin is what will help kind of thicken up this jam and get it to be something that's spreadable. We'll stir this in. And we'll keep stirring until that pectin is dissolved and fully mixed in here. Looks good. And we'll be adding the sugar. So it's 6 cups of sugar. This is granulated sugar or white sugar. We'll stir this in. Now we'll keep stirring until it comes to a boil. There we go. Let this come to a boil. This usually takes a few minutes here. You want the sugar to totally dissolve. You want it to get back up to a little bit of a boil. If it starts to develop a big foam layer on top, then you just skim that off with a spoon. Okay, so the jam has been cooking for about 5 minutes here. I can feel as I'm stirring it, it's feeling a little bit thicker. We have a little bit of foam at the top, but this should, usually if I stir it, it kind of goes away a little bit. This isn't too thick of a foam. So we'll get these into the jars. And I have the jars off to the side in the stock pot in the warm water. These are 1/2 pint rounded jelly or jam jars. Get this ladled in. About a 1/2 inch head space. A little more to each jar just to get the head space where we want it. And then the rest I'll put into smaller jars. One more small one. There's just a little bit extra. I'll just put this in a container and put in the refrigerator. It's not enough for the 1/4 pint jar and I don't want to waste it. Now I will wipe off the rims. It's a little bit of a sticky project, so wipe the rims down to get any jam that might have fallen on the top there. That'll help to ensure a nice tight seal. So as I was wiping these down, I thought, you know, I'm going to taste this before I get these all sealed up. Because I have that little bit that I put in the refrigerator. It was really tasty, so I decided to put one of these aside and I put it in the refrigerator already. If you do that, you can just put one of those plastic lids on there. They come in different colors. There's white ones, and I think the ones from Ball I think are a gray color. And those are nice to use once you open something that you're canning. Then to just store that in the refrigerator from then on. So let me finish wiping these down. There we go. Okay, let's get the lids and rings on and we'll get them into the water bath canner. So you'll just place the lid on and just hand tighten. Just strong magnet. The ring just kind of helps hold the lid in place while the jars are being processed. And once they're taken out of the processing water bath canner, then it suctions down and the ring is easily removed 12 to 24 hours later. Head over to the water bath canner, take the lid off, double check the temperature, it's good. We'll add the jars. When you're water bath canning, you just want to make sure that when the jars are submerged, that the water covers the top of them as well. We'll get the cover on and start processing. The processing time for me is 15 minutes, so I'll get that going. That's all based on your altitude, and most canning cookbooks or manuals have an altitude chart. Here in the Ball Blue Book, we have the altitude chart for boiling water or water bath method. It shows your altitude in feet and the minutes for processing, and also has it for pressure canning here as well. So we'll let these process for 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'll kind of tidy up the kitchen and get ready for the next step. Okay, so the Raspberry Sweet Heat Pepper jam has been processing for 15 minutes. So we'll let these sit in the water bath canner for about 5 minutes, and then we'll transfer them to the drying towel or drying pad area for cooling and sealing. So for these, we will let the jars sit on this drying pad for the next 12 to 24 hours. And at that point, hopefully they've all sealed. When the jars seal, they make a little high-pitched ping noise. And then after that point in time, after 12-24 hours, I'll take the rings off and I can label them and then put them into the canning pantry that we have. And we have one jar in the refrigerator that we're going to enjoy right away. So that jar was not processed. We'll just consume it. There, one just pinged. Okay, so here's the finished product of the Raspberry Sweet Heat Pepper Jam. I hope that you enjoyed part 3 of the 4-part spring canning series. If you'd like to check out the other parts of this series, you can do so. There's also other canning and food preservation videos that you can check out as well. I'll be sure to link all the equipment and things that I find helpful in my canning projects in the description box below. So hopefully you'll have the right tools and equipment for doing your canning projects as well. Well, I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Take care.